All right, get myself adjusted in the camera here. Hey everyone, how's it going? It's Wednesday. It is probably about 10:17. I'm a little late here on the West Coast, but you know, when you're a coach and a consultant, things happen. But for those of you who are elsewhere, the weather here is overcast and we're finally starting getting some rain, which we really desperately needed. So I want to welcome everyone, and again, this is Leverage on Periscope, and basically I'm trying to give people tips and ideas to help move their business forward. My name is Sean Winkler-Rios. I'm with Soloprenur. I've been a business coach, consultant, nonprofit executive director now for almost 15 years. And I've worked with hundreds, if not thousands, of entrepreneurs, small and large, across the state of Oregon. And I've learned a lot, and I know that it's a tough slog, and I'm trying to help smooth that so that people are more successful. So send me your questions. I'll be happy to answer them if you're being challenged in your startup today. But today I wanted to give you 5 pitfalls, if you will, 5 things that will kill your startup. And these are out of my experience. This is not a list that I researched or looked up or read. This is what I lived through. I've actually worked with entrepreneurs, and this is what, hey there, KB Holly 2002, how's it going? Good morning from the Pacific Northwest. These are things that have actually helped clients to kind of live through and survive, if you will. And I wanted to bring your attention to them, so if you're in a startup, you kind of have a heads up and maybe some ways to think about it to get you through it. So I'm going to give you 5 today, 5 things that I commonly see, errors in entrepreneurial. Good afternoon from Florida. Hey, good afternoon from Florida. All right, thanks for joining me today, all the way out here in Oregon. Hope you guys are doing well down there. So let me jump into this, and then if you have any questions, you can let me know at the end. So here's number 1. If you're in that early startup stage, or if you're planning it, I think you're going to be dealing with this issue, and that is, I call it no market, no customer. It may seem obvious if you're in business. Hey there, Ada Danielle. Welcome. Good to see you this morning, or good to talk to you this morning. No market, no customer. Hi. Thanks for joining me today. Welcome. That may seem obvious if you're in business, or at least I hope it seems obvious that if you're in business that you need a customer. But it's amazing to me how many entrepreneurs I meet that are so wrapped up in their idea and their concept and what they're going to do and all of these things that they never talk to anyone. They don't really validate the market. So what happens is when they start to implement whatever plan they developed, the plan ends up falling flat. There's no traction simply because they don't get a customer. Here's how you can overcome it. And that is, first of all, I love conversations. Talk to people. Talk to 5, 10 potential customers. You don't have to share everything about your idea, but I think when you're just getting started, the conversation is probably one of your best, foremost tools in making sure that you've got a startup that's actually going to be validated in the marketplace. And I mean, there's lots of tips and things online about how to go further than that. One of my favorite books is The Mom Test. It talks about how to ask the right questions of your customer and doing it in an objective way. But don't just get so entranced, so the rose-colored glasses on your idea that you forget to validate that you even have someone out there that'll potentially buy it. And it doesn't have to be sophisticated, and it doesn't have to be expensive. You can simply start talking to people and validate that you've actually got somebody that will buy your product. Thank you for the hearts there. I appreciate that. Here's pitfall number 2. And this is what I think you get into, especially if you don't have much of a financial background or if you're not the financial person, and that's undercapitalization. Thank you again for those hearts. Undercapitalization is basically you don't have enough startup capital to get to your break-even point. And if you're in a startup, I mean, that is one of the most critical things that you could calculate is what it is going to take. What is the break-even point? The break-even is where revenues equal expenses. At what point are you going to reach that? Are we talking days, weeks, months, or longer? And you've got to have enough capital in your bank account to basically survive that period of time. I've seen people that, for various different reasons, take longer than they expect to get to break even. And it's heartbreaking because, again, the business could work, the idea could work, the entrepreneur is doing the right things, but they didn't calculate how much money they needed to survive that gap. The object here is to calculate how much money you need in a lean way. You don't want to have too much, you don't want to have too little. You want to have just enough to meet those expenses and get you there in a reasonable amount of time. Now, I've read have 2 years worth of startup costs or startup cash in reserve, 3 months. It's up to you. The more, the better. But you want to make sure that you have enough to cover everything for the time being that you get there. And that means if you're not a financial person, you need to find someone who is and help create that financial plan that's going to estimate that for you. This next one is another one that's kind of a sleeper. It's hidden, and I call it the no profit. Startups basically get so into their idea, their product, their service. They may even be on their sales and getting marketing traction, but they don't understand what a margin is. Margin is the difference between your price, how much it costs you to produce your product, and what's left is called your gross profit. Then you have what's called your overhead, right? Well, you've got to have enough to cover all of that. It's kind of this trickle-down theory and your trickle-down process in your business. Do the math. Calculate how much it costs you to produce that service. Calculate how much it costs you to produce that product, and actually figure out what it's going to take for you to get a reasonable margin that's going to cover your overhead and actually give you an income and an ability to grow your business. If I see people can actually survive without doing that calculation for a period of time, and then they'll get to the point where they're wanting to grow or hire somebody and they can't because they don't have any capital for internal growth or to get any sort of a loan, which is what you need to have to get a loan. You have to have profit to get that. So make sure that you calculated your margins and that you've got profit, and start as early as you can. Make sure that you've got that. If you don't, you really don't have a business that's going to be around for long and it'll die. The next one is no team. Thank you for the hearts there. I think that's true, and unfortunately that can be a really sad tale that I've seen to happen too often. The fourth one is no team. And this is mostly for those solos out there, those folks that are just either you have a few employees or you're by yourself. Starting a business requires about 17 different types of skills: legal, problem solving, creativity. I can go through a whole list there, but the idea is that it's going to be more than you have. I've met no one that has all of the skill sets that will be needed to make a startup successful. And so even if you're solo, if you're small, get a team behind you. Get some advisors that have financial skills. Get some advisors that have business experience. Those are the best. Mentors that'll be on your team. Get people that have marketing experience. You can do friends and colleagues, and I know a lot of people do that, but it's really about the skills. I know we like to have people on our team that we have a lot of trust with, and that is important, but if they don't have the skills, they can't help you. They've got to have the knowledge and skills to move you forward. So get yourself an advisory team, get yourself a support team, get yourself your team, your startup team, whatever the case is, depending on the size of business that you're starting, and try to get all of those skill sets in place that are going to cover all the bases to make sure that you're thinking holistically 360 around your business. You need that, and you can get it. There are places that you can get it. So get a team together. And then the last one, I actually looked at all of the businesses. This was a statistical analysis that I did of all the small businesses in Lane County here in Oregon where I live. And what was interesting to me is how many of them actually changed their strategy. I was looking at their revenue streams and some data, and I was looking at how long they were in business and kind of the dynamics of it. What was clear to me was they made one plan at the beginning and they stuck to it, even though the plan was not the right plan or it had flaws in it or was wrong altogether. And that's a recipe for disaster. Depending on how well you interacted with customers and you did your homework on your plan to get in, whether it's a business plan, it's a business model, whatever it is, if you've made a plan, it's going to be filled with assumptions. It's going to be filled with things that you have to kind of guess on. What you want to do is that once you start actually doing the activities and seeing the results, you want to make sure that your assumptions or the things that you called facts were actually correct. And if it's not, try to figure out where you should be and make that switch as quickly as you can. Don't just stick to the plan and say, well, it's going to take time, it's going to work. My rule of thumb is that if you're not getting marketing traction out of the gate, and marketing traction for a startup I define as 3 months of increasing revenues month over month, then you've got a problem. You've got a problem with your startup. If you're not seeing traction over that period of time, it probably means that something's off. And you don't have time, given that you have a limited amount of reserves, to figure that out. So you have got to make the change, whatever it is, either product level, strategy level, or whole business level. You've got to make that as quickly as you can. So don't just make a plan and stick to it. Let it evolve. Let it flex with what you're seeing on the ground as you learn about your customer and your environment. Typically, if you do survive the break-even phase, it's going to be about 2 years before you've really gone through the cycles and figured out all the aspects of your business. So there they are, 5 things that I commonly see. There are more. There's no market, no customer, undercapitalized, no plan for profit, no margins, no team, and sticking to the plan. Hopefully, I've given you some tips here that will help you to get out of those and not get stuck with them. If you want more insights or if you want to dig into these a little bit more, please feel free to contact me on Twitter. Love the conversation, and I'd love to see you avoid this. This is painful. If you're involved with a startup and this is what's going on, these are not easy things to fix. They can be fixed, but they take some doing. But if you don't have your mindset in the right place, it won't happen at all. So that's it. Any questions for today? Thank you again for the 3 people that are here on Periscope and all of you that are joining me on the replay. All right. No, okay. I was that clear? I don't think so, but hopefully you got something on that. You bet. Thank you. You guys have a great day, rest of your day. We'll see you here again tomorrow.